Hey there everybody, what's going on? Cinema Recap here, and today we're gonna look at My Father is a Hero. Spoilers ahead. Jet Li is known as Kung in this movie, and he's waiting by a public phone. Meanwhile, his son is complaining to his wife about Kung's lateness. They're at a martial arts show or a tournament for teenagers. It's a big hall and the young men have just completed a group choreography routine. And so it's time for the real deal. Kung is calling his supervisor. Actually, he's undercover and is impatient to be with his son and wife. This much he tells his supervisor. And soon his targets arrive with the goods. In this case, it's a bunch of fake passports. Kung has been instructed to capture and bring in their ringleader. But first, he has to evade and fight off a few men who came down with him. Now back at the tournament, the contestants are being called up one by one. It'll soon be Ku's turn. They're both looking out for when Kung will arrive. Meanwhile, Kung's busy fighting off about 5 criminals, disarming all of them. He's also able to literally bag their leader with a sack and cart him in the back of a bike, and then rides off towards his son's showing. He gets there right on time as Ku takes the stage and gives a beautiful kung fu rod display. So Kung has carried the sack containing the criminal into the hall, and soon enough, the bad guys locate him. A fight breaks out as Kung consistently gets the better of his assailants. Man, this guy's good. Ku ends his recital, and right then a bad guy drops from the roof of the hall. Now Kung's son senses that his father's in trouble and he goes to get his gear. He disarms the fallen assailant easily. And this is when the police arrive and take over. Like father, like son, you might imagine. Now back at home, both father and son are chilling together brushing their teeth, and soon it's time for their dragon breathing exercise. And do notice the pun. They both immerse their faces in the basins of water to find out who lasts the longest. Apparently, everyone in their compound is rooting for him as they get on with their day. Kung's wife calls out their attention now, and she also reminds Kung that he has an appointment with his son by 6 that evening. Ku's going to receive a plaque for his martial arts skills from the mayor himself. And that evening, Kung arrives and meets up with his wife and son. He's already running late, and Ku wishes he'd been there to join him in the picture. They all get on a packed public bus, and Kung gives his son a watch. Before we go on, like the video, smash the subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to join our expendable squad. By the time they get home, the cops are there, and Kung's arrested. No qualms though, because it is a fake arrest that even his family aren't in on. Now at headquarters that same night, his supervisor tells him that he's got to go undercover again, and that his escape in the company of one Darky will be orchestrated. Now, Darky's a part of a gang, and it's Kung's ticket into the operations of said gang. Kung's complaining about the health challenge he faces with his wife, but is reassured by his supervisor. So the backstory is set up as the cop checks on him. Kung is able to escape with Darky into the night as they're pursued by cops and guard dogs. Now, Kung decides to take a detour to his house first, and when he gets there, his wife is still sick but asleep. Ku's working on some homework, and Kung calls his attention. He tells his son that he's going to be away for a while, and that he has to take care of his mother. They part ways sadly as Ku looks on. Kung ends up going to Hong Kong, which is where the hideout of the criminals is. Now Kung is soon in the thick of things when Bo, who's a crime boss, lays out his intention to acquire some bomb manufacturing materials without paying for them. It just so happens that Kung's the man who comes up with the best plan to articulate this. He says one of them can go in wearing an explosive vest, and this would suffice to scare the sellers out of that meeting. And then they would abandon their merchandise, maybe the payment too. So the rendezvous point is at an upscale bar and restaurant. Coincidentally, detectives Fong and Cheng are meeting up there too. They're engaged in a secret love affair, and Fong is telling Cheng that he ought to leave his wife for good. Just then, Bo arrives with the money for the bomb stuff. His dealers are upstairs at the same restaurant, and he soon meets up with them. Outside, Darky's waiting for a signal to take the goods away. And once it seems that the money has been exchanged, Darky drives away with the bomb stuff. Meanwhile, Bo gives yet another signal to Kung and his other men to move in and seize the money. Well, they do that, but a gunfight breaks out, and the guests at the restaurant and bar start running for their lives as there's pandemonium everywhere. So as the situation starts to get out of hand for everyone on all sides, Kung reveals his vest bomb. And there's a brief moment of silence, figuratively speaking. But then a random police officer shoots and Kung loses the advantage. He's now holding Officer Chang as a shield and is trying to figure a way out when Fong volunteers to be his hostage instead. Oh, he better leave his wife for her after this sacrifice. Also, she has a getaway car, so Kung can't refuse her offer, and they drive off. Now, Fong's a smart police officer, and she has a plan to entrap Kung. She drives to the end of an incomplete flyover as the police pursue him, and Kung senses her intentions and is able to create a diversion by shooting at the car's patrol tank. Well, that explodes, and he's able to jump onto a crane cup nearby. Fong tries to follow him and almost falls to the ground, but he helps her before running away for good, and Fong becomes determined to figure him out. She travels from Hong Kong all the way to Beijing. She meets up with his original supervisor, who doesn't even tell her that Kung works for him as an undercover cop. And then she decides she might see his family too. Meanwhile, Ku's having some trouble at school. Some bullies have figured out that his father seems to be a wanted man, and they taunt him for it. And just then the principal says he has a call, so he puts the bullies on pause for now. He heads over and his father's on the other line. They talk briefly about their mom and about money. Ku tells his father about the stigma he's facing, and Kung says he'll explain everything when he gets back. Well, Ku seems re-energized now and is ready to face the world. When he gets back, he finds those bullies that are pestering his best friend. So he takes the fight to them, being the little ninja that he is. And he's able to finish them all off, including their leader, who's like twice his size. At the end of the school day, Ku has no bus money and has to walk all the way home. Now, Fong is the unfortunate cop who has decided to follow him. Ku walks all evening, easily. As for Fong, she's also carrying a travel suitcase. And by the time they get to the house, well, she's exhausted and makes a comment to no one in particular about how strong little Ku is. She's here to infiltrate Kung's little family and lies her way into the hearts of Ku and his mother. And while familiarizing themselves, Ku reads a recent letter from his father, Kung. Now, the gesture brings out some doubt to the mind of Fong. Is Kung really that great of a guy? It's the same man that held her hostage with a gun to her face. Well, that night, Fong sneaks into Ku's bedroom and finds more letters from Kung. Just then, Kung's wife catches her. Not angrily, though, seeing she's sick. And the wife tries to make a case for her husband and his clandestine lifestyle. It seems she doesn't even know Kung's an undercover cop. Separately, she also knows Fong's an officer of the law. So the next morning, Ku's helping his mother with some laundry when Fong tries to get closer to him. She asks him a few random questions, and they converse openly. Ku's such a ladies' man. But out there in Hong Kong, Kung's going deeper and deeper. He gets word from his friend Darky that there's an antiques deal going down soon. Bo's in the talks with Lee, who's a female crime boss that likes men's suits. They plan to auction all the antiques Bo managed to smuggle from the mainland. Now the wealthy buyers will bid while riding on a boat, so as to avoid any heat or surveillance from the authorities. Later on, Kung reports back to his supervisor, who tells him to sit tight. Meanwhile, Kung's wife's condition has gotten worse. During one of those nights when Ku's trying to write a letter to his father, the wife makes a loud noise in her bedroom. She's crashed to the floor coughing, and Ku and Fong are beside her. They decide to take her to the hospital, and it doesn't look like she has long to live, so she starts to give instructions to Fong for the care of Ku. She also hands over a letter to Fong meant for her husband, and then she says her final words, which, as you might have guessed, will always be incomplete. Ku and Fong have a little cry. Later on, Kung gets the message on his emergency pager and loses his mind for a moment. He attacks his crime boss, Bo, and as such, he's almost killed, if not for Darky's intervention. Now, Fong and Ku are on their way to Hong Kong, but first they have to hire a boat. While haggling that fare, a Bo loyalist overhears Ku's full name being mentioned, and it rings a bell. So he calls Bo up and reports it. It's about Kung's very own son, but Bo plays it cool in Kung's presence so as not to give away his line of thought. Now back at the boat dock, some assailants attack Fong and Ku on Bo's instructions. Both officer and boy fight skillfully. As you can see, they make a good team and trust one another. Well, that feeling continues when they finally finish off all the bad men and get on a speedboat towards their destination to Hong Kong. This is where Fong confesses she's a cop going after Ku's father. She also admits that she changed her mind about the whole thing and thinks Kung is a good man. And Ku accepts that compliment on behalf of his father. So the following morning, Ku's pictures are flashed on the newspapers, and Fong walks up angrily to her old partner Chang to start complaining. Her arrival with Ku was supposed to be on the down low, so Ku would move freely without any amateur bounty hunters trying to cash in on finding him. Well, Ku immediately calls his dad, and they briefly talk. Now later on, he hears the news and realizes that he's been put on a missing persons watch. Well, Ku thinks Fong ratted him out, and so leaves that relative safety of her apartment. He thinks he can't trust her. Now Fong's on her way back, just as Kung is on his way to meet his son. While Fong enters her apartment, Kung sneaks in through the window and they clash. But Ku has since left that apartment and is wandering around town when Bo finds him and takes him away with convincing words. So Darky comes in the room with some takeout dinners and distributes it to the men. Ku gets his own too, and as they're all eating, Kung walks in. He pretends not to know Ku at first and has to maintain this for Ku's safety. Even when Bo asks him directly, he denies it by saying Kung is a very popular name around these parts. But then Bo attacks Ku, and it takes a lot of self-control from Kung to restrain himself. And just when Bo's about to end Ku, Kung intervenes and whispers to his son to do that dragon breath as always practiced. Well, Ku does that, and it's as if he's gone limp and died. He's then put in a trash bag and tossed away. Kung suggests that they all go for a party so they can find an excuse to save his son. And he gives Fong a call, but it goes to voicemail. Damn Kung's luck. So he goes after his son himself before the trash is collected. And on getting there, he's ambushed. Bo's planted some men there, and Bo himself has followed Kung. Bo tries to get a confession from him at gunpoint, but Kung's not letting up easy. A fight breaks out between Kung and Bo's men, but Bo's jealous. He wants to be the one to kill Kung. He shoots at one of his men by accident for the chance, and is soon able to fight Kung face to face. One of Bo's men tries to run him over with a truck as they go, but Fong arrives just in time to help Kung beat the bad guys at their game. She commandeers that truck as Kung gets in and they drive away. Ku on his part is safe with Darky. They're hiding out on a boat and Darky brings some food and toys he purchased in town. Now Kung's at Fong's place and is recuperating from his wounds while Fong doesn't seem to know where Ku is. In fact, nobody does and not even his father can take a guess. Now Bo on his part has begun planning towards that auction. He decided to blow up the whole boat and cart away all the money set aside by the wealthy buyers. Not too bad they'll never live or leave to enjoy what their hard-earned money can do. What about the pun there? Maybe not. So back at the boat hideout, Darky's telling Ku to stay low, but a passerby snitches on him and soon Bo's there to investigate. When Darky refuses to say anything, he's snuffed by Bo. Ku's holding his breath underwater as all of it's happening. When the bad guys leave, Ku swims to the surface by Darky's side. He gives him a key card and a pager before sadly giving up. Now Ku promptly calls his father about this. And while Fong entertains her, rejects Chang, her side boyfriend, and his marriage proposal, Kung leaves through the window. Now Bo has a CCTV set up to watch the boat where the auction's going down, and especially to keep an eye on the bombs that he's placed. As he leaves the command boat for the auction, Ku's able to step in and neutralize the person manning those cameras. He then goes to relay the information to his dad, who's infiltrated the auction. He directs his father and they're able to defuse 5 bombs before the phone battery starts to die down. And as such, the exact location of the last bomb is left hanging as the auction properly begins. So Bo goes on to announce to all the buyers that their lives are in his hands, and demonstrates this by detonating a pocket bomb that has been planted on Lee. Yeah, remember her with her male suits? Well, she's blown to pieces and the buyers go into panic mode. Soon enough, Kung gets noticed by Bo and he tells him that his bombs have been defused. So Bo tosses the detonator aside, and then they all begin to fight with such a great display of martial arts. And then Ku joins in to support his dad. It's 2 against 3 and their choice of weapon is a plain old rope, to which they use to great effect. They're able to pummel these guys, that include Bo of course. The fight continues and at some point Bo lays his hands on that detonator, exploding the last bomb by mere chance. Kung and his son are left shaken by that blast. But then, Fong swoops in like Wonder Woman or Supergirl. She shoots at Bo but he's taking a hold of Ku. Well, he starts to strangle him, and so Ku does his dragon breath thing again, which allows Kung to get a clear shot of Bo. And afterwards, a helicopter is at hand to take him away. But Bo has a final move and is able to pull Kung down as Fong and Ku are flown away. Well, they struggle just as Kung has his own final move. He's able to pin Bo long enough to dive into the water as a random bomb detonates where Bo is. Eventually, Kung reunites with Fong and Ku, who are still unconscious, and the doctors seem to have given up on him. But Ku miraculously comes back to life. The nurses and doctors are chatting away at how fortunate he is when Fong feels the need to lay down the law, because it's supposed to be a private family moment. Thanks for sticking through. This was a recap of My Father's a Hero, released in the US with the title The Enforcer or simply Jet Li's The Enforcer. It was a 1995 Hong Kong action film starring Jet Li and Anita Mui. It was directed by Corey Ewan, who also co-stars in the film as a mere bartender. Again, thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you feel the channel and turn on those notifications for more content. See you soon.